Ready?
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, throw open your windows and call out to your neighbors. That's right. It's time for John Perrotta's Comedy Factory Zoom Alooza, sponsored and popped by A Million Little Things by Karen. And now, your host, the man, he's not a myth, but he is a legend.
No legend.
John Perrotta with a very special guest this evening.
Mike, we went into the vault tonight. We got a blast from all of our past. We all started together. He's a great friend of ours. We started comedy in the early 90s. I remember being on stage with him at the Comedy Connection. I believe he also made the final 10 in the Tonight Show Comedy Challenge. And that's where I met Eric. That's where I met Eric. Eric Hofer is here tonight from Hawaii, where he now lives. Eric, what's up, brother?
What's up, Johnny boy? Mike Cronin, what's happening, man?
Man, I got to tell you, I always compliment the guys that are good looking on this show. Shiv Patel, Nick Youth. I'll tell you, man, you might take that top slot. This guy you have preserved well, my brother. You are ready for the cover of GQ magazine.
Nice.
He always looks good, Eric Hofer. Always looks good.
I'm usually a lot more tan, but since I bought the house, I haven't been to the beach in like a month, I'm usually much more tan than this, but
it's so how did you wind up in Hawaii? Tell us, because a lot of people haven't seen you. How'd you wind up out there?
You know what? So I remember I was laying in bed in like 2015 and like the end of summer, and there was a CNN story that said it's going to be a brutal winter. And I was like, you know what? I'm out of here, man. I literally just packed my shit, sold all my stuff, packed my truck. And my friend had lived in California in Beverly Hills for years and kept telling me, come out. You'll love it. You'll love it. So I literally just packed my stuff and headed west, man. I moved to LA. Then I was gone from New England. New England and I divorced 5 years ago, Yeah, that's how I got. And then I was in California working. I came out to Hawaii for a month with my company and ended up staying 5 years now.
You liked it that much. You loved it. You just said, I'm staying here.
It's so awesome, man. It really is. I remember my first day here. My first day, I got off the plane in a skinny suit, a skinny tie, and in LA, Boston traffic, Rhode Island traffic. I remember driving down the highway to the hotel. It's a 2-lane highway. The speed limit's 40 miles an hour, but I remember swerving around people at like 60, beeping at people, chucking people the finger, like, what the fuck? And then it took me about 2 weeks to lose the suit, grab a Hawaiian shirt, and I just never left. I transferred over with my company and stayed.
Wow, that's awesome, man. And I'm over
cool.
here. I'm in Cranston, Cronin's in North Providence, and we worry about the snow. He's over there. What's wrong with this picture, Mike?
I'll tell you, man, Eric's got it going on. He has got it go. I remember when you made the move out to LA. I remember that clearly. So then you went from LA to Hawaii, and you were like, man, I am just planting my roots here in Hawaii.
To Maui, yeah. Maui. I've been to the mainland 2 times. The first time I hadn't left the island for 3 years. I went to Vegas for a meeting. And I remember, in Vegas, that's my city, right? And I remember sitting in traffic, driving to the meeting after 3 years of not leaving the island, and just people everywhere and cars and noise. And I was like, just the second day, I'm like, I got to get out of here, man. I actually left a day early to get back to Hawaii. Like, I couldn't take it, man.
Once you get used to Hawaii, you love it that much.
You're talking about a big contrast from where we are on the East Coast and LA and whatnot. Explain to us what that difference is. Now you're saying the mainland, I left the island. What's it like? What are the people like? What's the culture like? Are they more friendly? Fill us in.
Well, it's weird. The culture is very different. The people are really nice. Remember, it's always new people pretty much because it's tourists. You know what I mean? It's all tourists. So the locals are nice. A lot of them, the old locals, don't like, the haole. They call us haoles. It's a derogatory term for people not from the island. And we're a little slow. I mean, the Washington Post rates Hawaii as the least educated, to put it nicely. But, it's weird. It's funny. I remember when I first got it was a total culture shock, right? A total culture shock. And I remember going to, Starbucks is Starbucks, Ruth's Chris. But when you really get into like the local scene, it's just totally different. Everybody's nice, I mean, people stop and let you go in traffic, and everybody's got a hello, and you just hang out at the beach. And, I mean, you make friends in 2 seconds, and literally everybody's friendly, because people aren't generally miserable because their day-to-day life, picture Rhode Island and Boston, and, with the snow and the traffic, or LA, same thing. I mean, I don't know if you guys been to LA, but,
Yeah.
when I first got there, I dated this girl that lived like 7 miles away. And, I was first time visitor. It took me 2 hours to get there. It was 2 hours, man. And I remember telling her, I'm like, I can't date you. We're not geographically compatible, man. This is not
7 miles
work.
away. It was
7 miles.
Too
2
far.
hours, bro. Not kidding. 2 hours it took me when I first got to LA to go see this girl. And I was like, not going to work, man.
That's
not
crazy.
going to work. So I just stayed in that little bubble in, West Hollywood, Beverly Hills, where all the comedy clubs were, I mean, I lived like a mile away from all the clubs, from the Comedy Store and the Laugh Factory.
What clubs did you do in LA when you were out there?
You know what? I did the Comedy Store a lot, but it was easier to get in there because, I knew a lot of those guys. I knew Pauly Shore, and Burr was always there, and Stanhope was always there. And, and I knew those guys, of course, through the years. I mean, there was a lot of comics I knew. It's weird. I would be there, like, and I remember when I first moved there, like sitting there at the Comedy Store at the patio, and I see Esther Koo. You guys know Esther, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's there, and so it was easy to get in because I knew all those guys, and Jay,
That must have been
a big
cool.
help, a big help to me. I forget his last name. Jay, he was on that show with Dane Cook. Remember Dane Cook's road show with Gary, what was his name?
Gary Goldman.
Gary Goldman and Jay. So I knew Jay again from the Comedy Connection, through the years. So it was kind of easy to get into the LA. So that's all I did. I worked at Beverly Hills Lexus, and at night I hung around at the comedy clubs.
That must have been nice.
It was awesome, man. And again, I knew, I would see guys that I knew. I would see Burr there all the time. And, Burr was a kid when we were young doing stand-up,
Yeah, I remember when you let me open for him on one of the shows at the Connection that weekend. That was a cool night, man. Talking to him and hanging out with him, and
Yeah. We did like 6 shows with him, I think, that weekend, right?
Yeah, he was just starting out. He was blowing up.
Yeah.
He was just, you had him at the Connection. So when you had him at the Connection 2 shows a night, he was just starting out. And then he really blew up after that,
Well, you know what? Same thing with Kevin Hart. So remember
I saw Kevin Hart. I remember seeing Kevin Hart there, yeah.
So I had Kevin Hart. That was right before, he was selling out clubs, and he was selling out 6, 7 shows in a weekend, just like Burr. And then all of a sudden, those guys, they get to a point and they realize, hey, I can go do one night of 2,000 seats instead of, 3 nights of 2,000 seats,
Yeah.
So I had Kevin Hart, same thing back in 2009. He was just starting to blow up big in stand-up,
Yeah, I
And
remember
if you watch, how these guys do it. They go to clubs to work on their acts. And if you watch Kevin Hart's special, I'm a Grown Ass Man, I think it was 2010, but in 2009 when we had him, all those jokes he was doing at the Connection were all in his special that he put out, his first big special.
Wow.
I remember, Eric, Esther Koo, when I had Meatball Comedy Stop, she hit me up and she wanted $5,000.
She wanted $5,000.
$5,000. $5,000.
When was that?
This was probably going back 10, 12 years ago. It's right after she came. It was right when she came off of Last Comic Standing.
You know what? That's funny. $5,000. I remember the first season of that. You want to hear a funny story? This is, I don't know, when was first season? 2004 or 5? Me and Galvin drive to New York City, right? Madison Square Garden is where they're having it. And I mean, the line's a mile long and it's freezing. It's like 10 degrees. Me and Galvin are outside all day. Freezing. We finally get in at like 7 o'clock at night, me and Eddie. And I don't know if you ever auditioned for one of those things, but you go in this line and there's these 3 judges and you get maybe 2 minutes, right?
I did.
So Galvin goes on, Galvin's, he does well and he gets laughs. And then I went in and I used to do this old joke about, this is going way back, but how my father's a doctor and they took his license away from him. they caught him having sex with his patients again. And then that was my first joke. And I said, he's a veterinarian. And the guy goes, next. Next. It still rings in my head. Next.
That's sick, Eric.
Yeah.
Wrong choice that night, huh?
Yeah. But yeah, we go way back, guys. Cronin, I remember when you used to book the gym. You had the long hair and the coat. Remember we used to do that gym, those gym shows at the gym.
What had happened was I worked at Bally Total Fitness for like 12 years. So then I cut all my long hair off, much to Johnny P's dismay. He's like, you can't do the Bad Boy and Comedy Act now. You cut all your hair. So then I went to New England Health and Racket, and Denise, that club, you remember, that was a pretty cool club. It was Health Club, and they had the big pool outside. They had the bar, they had food, the whole bit. So they knew who I was from comedy. And Denise that ran that said to me, hey, if you ever want to do comedy shows here, just let me know. We'll book some shows. So I did. I put some shows together there. I had you there. I had Ace there. I had a few of them. One of my greatest memories of you, Eric, was when I hired you to do my friends, Dave and Renee LaFazia. You did their wedding at the Viking Hotel. And I'll tell you, man, I was so proud. Everyone had an unbelievable, great time. Johnny, he came in, he had leather jackets, leather motorcycle jackets for everybody. He did a Grease theme. It was just A to Z, knocked it right out of the park. Do you remember that?
What's that?
Do you remember that?
Yeah, well, I worked for the entertainment company, so we used to do these big weddings in bar, which was, again, I mean, the money was just fantastic back then. But I remember we had, I don't know if we had dancers at that particular one. Are they still married?
They are still married. I'm godfather to two of their kids, Nick.
I would love to get a copy of one of those tapes. But I worked for the entertainment company as an MC. Remember, I had a DJ, and we would do costume changes, and the money was huge. I didn't do stand-up, I don't think, for a year or two back then, because the money was so much. I mean, I was making, $1,000, $1,500 in a day. And then I remember, and it was going really good. I mean, I was doing huge weddings, 300, 400, 500 people. And then the owner's wife took over, and she wanted to be an MC. And I remember when I stopped doing that I had guys that lugged the equipment and DJs and dancers, and I didn't have to do anything except show up and grab a microphone. And then I remember, next thing I know, I'm doing a Knights of Columbus wedding on a Saturday night by myself, lugging DJ equipment for $300. And I was like, yeah, I don't need $300 this bad, man.
Wow.
So, yeah. And then I went, and then that same show that I used to do back then for weddings and stuff, I actually went and I worked on the Spirit of Boston in Massachusetts, doing that same show, but for tourists, doing harbor cruises. And I would do that same show.
That was like, so.
What year was that?
That was oh my goodness gracious, man.
The 90s.
That was
late
back
90s?
that was back in the 90s, because I remember
late 90s.
They were looking for, entertainment, how to do this. I said, I got a good friend of mine. He's a stand-up comic. He's doing weddings right now. I'll reach out to him. And, when you talk to them, they liked you and you came in. When you book somebody, you're putting your name and reputation on the line. So when you came in and delivered, I was like, I felt so prideful, so proud of you, the great job that you did. They talk about it to this day. They talk about it to this day. I mean, I
would love to see that tape, man.
And blew it. I mean, all of the talent, the God-given talent that you've got as a stand-up, and then just to plug that in with this new platform of putting weddings on. I mean, it was like seamless. I was like, wow.
Yeah, we had a good show back then, man.
Where do we meet? Where do we meet, Eric? Do we meet at I know I was in the Tonight Show Comedy Challenge. You made it to the Final 10. You made it to the Final 10. Is that where we met?
Well, I met you the first time I ever did stand-up was at Periwinkle's. Remember Periwinkle's?
Yeah.
It was 1992. And I met you at that show, but I met you at that show briefly. I don't even know if you were on the show. Ed Regine was on that show. Yeah. It was my first time doing stand-up. And then then they had that comedy challenge. It was right after Jay Leno took over the Tonight Show. Remember?
Yeah.
They had the contest at the Apex. Remember the Apex in Pawtucket?
Yeah, I went to the Apex.
Yeah. You know what's interesting about
Seth
that?
MacFarlane was there, and I didn't even know. I saw it.
Well, you remember Seth? He used to come to the open mics at the Connection on Wednesday nights, way back, way back. In fact, the article I have an article from the Providence Journal on that. It's on my Instagram if you look for it. And it's the story of the comedy challenge, and it tells this. Again, there were no laughs at that show, but Charlie Hall was one of the judges. Charlie Hall's the one who passed me on that, and it was like the second time I'd ever done stand up. But the article says about it tells a joke I did. I think it was, some people inherit money, some families inherit good looks. In my family, we inherit eye polyps. And I remember it quoted that joke. And then the next paragraph was, the next contestant is Seth MacFarlane, who doesn't do any better. He did a little better than us, but, if you don't remember Seth, because he went to RISD at the time. So he used to come down. I remember he used to wear those rugby shirts, and he used to sit at the Connection. You remember every 6 weeks you could get on at the open mic at the Connection. Dana was the manager back then.
Yeah.
And I remember Seth used to sit there going, I hope I do good tonight. I hope he's a little skinny, twerpy kid, man. Not kidding. He was at RISD at the time, and he used to wear the rugby shirts. He was about this thin. And I remember I used to see him. We used to talk all the time. He'd show up. Again, it's one exit over from RISD, and he'd come to the open mic. Same thing with Burr, remember? Burr, same thing.
I hope I do good tonight.
Yeah, I remember MacFarlane going, I hope I do good tonight.
See, I remember meeting Eric back at that same time frame, like 91, 92, and Eric was in regular rotation on the circuit. So we would meet Eric at all the different rooms that we were doing. That was weird because again, John, what's funny? So the third show I ever did was remember, John, we made the final 10 at the Tonight Show at the Comedy Connection. I had never worked at the Comedy Connection. And I remember I'm like, well, I crushed at Periwinkle's my first time. I mean, I remember there was like 250 people, and I remember I crushed. And Ed Regine went on after me, and he walked off because he was I can't father, and I didn't know shit about stand-up. But I remember going up to Frank O'Donnell at the time, who was booking that room, and going, how'd I do? He goes, well, you did bring a lot of people. And I was like, motherfucker, man. But anyways, I had huge confidence at the time. And the comedy challenge, I remember they put me first. And it was the first time I ever ate it in my life.
I went second. I went second that night.
It was so bad, man. You got a tape of that?
Nah, I lost track. I don't know where that ever wound up. I remember going second. I had one. I don't know whatever happened to it though.
Yeah. So after that, again, I mean, I just remember eating it, but I was getting divorced because my first wife didn't want me doing stand-up, but then I started hanging out at the Comedy Connection all the time, right? Because I lived right near it. So every night I'd be there. And then, Dana would put you on every 4, 5, 6 weeks for 3 minutes. And then one night I was there and someone didn't show up and she put me on. So then that's when I started hosting at the Comedy Connection. That's how when I met you, like kind of on a regular basis, with Galvin.
I remember going, I wanted no part of the Jay Leno Tonight Show tryout. And a lot of you guys.
It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun.
You guys were all like, dude, what's wrong with you? But if you remember back then, I had grown my hair long, and that was not the venue I wanted to take. I had developed the bad boy of comedy persona on stage, and I wanted to take that route. I wanted to do the comedy that I was doing because I can remember I saw Mike McCarthy at Periwinkle's, and Mike McCarthy back then had long hair. And
was he around back then?
Yeah, he was around back. He was around back then, and he looked like me in terms of long hair. So when I saw him, I said, that's the kind of comedy that I want to do. I was kind of like teetering on that edge. I'd hit it kind of hard and I'd pump the brakes and back off it. But when I saw Mike McCarthy and I saw the response he got, I said, that's it. So I grew my hair even longer and I wrote much more aggressively and developed that stage persona and went in that route. And I can remember you guys were all telling me, you got to try out for the comedy, the Jay Leno thing. I'm like, nah, I don't want to do that. But I went and supported you guys. I remember I went to the Warwick Mall.
Yeah, second round was at Warwick Mall.
I went to the, I went support all my friends and whatnot that went to that, and that was pretty cool to watch it. But I just had no interest in entering it with that. I don't know if that would have. I mean, I don't think it would have made or broken my career in terms of what I was looking to do, because at that time when I met John at the Comedy Connection, and when not the Comedy Connection, Periwinkles, I probably had 3 minutes, and then meeting John having faith in me, I went from 3 to 5 to 5 to 7 to 7 to 10 and whatnot. And like in 2 years, John's got me closing shows. Then I met Dana through our old friend who went home to Jesus, Dave DiLorenzo. That's how I met Dana. And then Dana would put me up, let me host some shows. And then she heard that I did bachelor parties, and I had built myself quite a name doing bachelor parties back then. And then Dana kept me busy. Dana and Claudia, during bachelor party season, I was getting 300, 350 for doing these bachelor parties. And
good old days. We used to do a ton of them. Now it's,
and then from there, I was getting referrals. I did more police, Cranston, Providence, Rhode Island State Police, just through referrals. I'd gotten that. So the whole Jay Leno's show, I was like, that's.
But the thing was, I was in that contest, the final 10 was Eric, Eddie Galvin, remember Freddie Murphy, who did all that crazy impersonations.
Yeah.
Frank O'Donnell was in the final 10.
Who won that? Frank O'Donnell won, right?
I think Frank O'Donnell won it, yeah. But I forget who else was in it. But Mike Hanley was in it. I met Mike Hanley there. And we met a bunch of us on a meeting through that. So that was the good thing about it. I mean, I didn't really, I knew I wasn't going to get anywhere with it, but we met a lot of different guys, comics. It was really cool.
Who was the comic that was in that era with us that used to send jokes to Leno, and every now and then he'd get a check from Leno because he'd use a joke? Who was that person? You guys remember?
I don't know.
Was it Mike McDonald?
No, because I knew him, but I wasn't friendly with him. There was someone that we knew that would write jokes, send him to the Tonight Show, and every now and then he'd get a check from the Tonight Show because Leno used the bit.
Well, Frank O'Donnell wrote for Leno. I think he sent jokes to Leno and Bob Hope. It might have been. Maybe
it was Frank O'Donnell.
Yeah, Bob Hope.
O'Donnell wrote for Bob Hope.
He sent him a joke and he used it. That's all I know. I don't know how many.
I'd like to investigate that one, man.
You're crazy.
There's got to be more to that story than that.
That's all I know. That's all I know.
I think
I'm sorry.
I think, Eric, you're right. I think it was Frank O'Donnell that would occasionally get a check from the Tonight Show because Leno would use one of his bits, one of his jokes.
So
yeah, you talk about Dana. I remember Dana. You remember Dana? She was like, she ran that shit tight, but Dana was instrumental. She was instrumental in me getting started because, again, I used to hang around. So she'd put me up when someone didn't show up or she needed to fill space. But I remember Dana, just brutal. I used to pace back and forth on the stage. I used to just walk back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And I remember Dana going, "Why do you do that?" And I'm like, "What?" She goes, "Why do you just pace back and forth? It's annoying. Just stand still." And I was like, "Okay." Anyway, so she helped me because I remember I was so conscious after that of just standing still in the middle of the stage. For a while I just stood there, because I was like, shit, she's watching me. I can't pace. But then, so this is a good story too. How I really got started with the connection is, you remember Joey Sandagate?
Yeah.
He was the booker out of Boston. So he used to book the connection, remember? Dana wasn't necessarily, she would book the open, but Joey Sandagate used to book the acts in Providence from Boston. And I remember me and Galvin went to the Christmas party for the connection, and we met Joey Sandagate and we hung out and partied with him all night. Next thing you know, me and Galvin again in these bachelor parties in Chicopee, and we're making $400 or $500, right? Joey Sandagate was, you party with a guy, we were getting all these gigs. And I don't know if you know the story about how he left the connection. You know that story?
I heard about it.
So he's Colin Quinn was on stage at the Faneuil Hall Comedy Connection. And again, me and Eddie Galvin had just gotten in with Joey. We partied with him all night. We were friends now. We're getting gigs. He's booking us at the connection. And Colin Quinn's on stage, and I guess this, the booker at the Connection, Joey, he liked to gamble. And I remember they said that, and again, this is what they said, it's got to be true, that he came running through the middle of the Connection, and these two wise guys were chasing him, man.
I heard about that.
It was over. Next thing you know, I'm back to hosting fucking shows at the Connection in Providence, man.
Wow,
No more parties.
That is a funny story.
No more parties
That
with
is a
Joey,
funny
man.
story.
Did
I
you ever
remember
see him
Eric-
again? Did you ever hear from him again? No.
You know what's funny? Maybe 10 years ago, I knew a guy, just some random guy that I met, and we were talking. I don't even remember what it was, but next thing you know, he's the cousin of Joey Sandegate. So we called him up. I talked to him, but he never went back into booking shows or doing. I don't even know what he ended up doing.
I never really knew. I knew of him, but I never really got to know him.
He was the guy to know, and it lasted.
I heard
about
that story.
6 months. Yeah.
Eric, here's a good story from the Comedy Connection. Rockin' Joe had a night, and he had this contest going for a month. So he calls me up, and he asked me if I would come down and I would be in. He said, I'd like to get somebody that a veteran that can hold their own. So I know I'm going to have someone that's going to be able to get some laughs. So I come down and I do it. So I come down, we're back in the green room, and I'm in full bad boy of comedy regalia. My long hair's flowing. I got the black touch-tail jacket on. Dana comes back and says to me, Cronin, I give you plenty of work outside of the Connection for your act. Do not do it here. Spins around and walks out with her hair bouncing. I looked at Joe. I said, the heck is up with that? What am I going to do now? So he looked at me, he goes, I don't know. I said, well, man, I got to play the songs that got me to the dance. So each week, Eric, I'd win. And I ended up winning it. And I'll never forget the night that I won it, the finals. I did this big elaborate bow so that all my hair would flow down and I'd throw it back up like a rock star. And Dana was standing right at the end of the bar where you had like the booth where you could collect the tickets, but also look through that sliding saloon door in.
Yeah.
And her eyes met mine. I'm telling you, Eric, if she could have melted me like a candle, she would have melted me like a candle right then and there on the stage of the Comedy Connection. I will.
Dana was tough. Dana was tough.
That. Ever, ever, ever. I give you enough work outside of the Connection for you to do your act. Do not do it here. And she spun around so quick, her long hair was bouncing as she walked away.
See, I didn't do the Connection. I didn't do the Connection a lot back then because I went in. I got in. I won Rockin' Joe at a contest. I won in that one time, and then she had me hosting. And Dana, it was like the end of the show or the middle. You had to say these 15 things.
Yeah.
This is happening. That's happening. It was like unbelievable. I hosted one weekend and I was like, I'm all set with this. I'll do my own stuff. I love Dana now, but I mean, back then I wouldn't work there. I couldn't. It was too much for me.
I remember. Yeah.
I got to host quite a bit. I liked Dana. I had kind of a different relationship with her through Bally Total Fitness. What I did was I put 2 contest boxes in there, men's room, ladies' room, and I gave Dana and everybody at the staff free membership passes to Bally. So I would go there during the week, during the day, and empty those boxes out. So I'd get to see Dana, have some FaceTime with her, talk to her, get to know her. And I liked her. I liked her a lot. And we got along. We got along really well. So I got my share of hosting there quite a bit. And I remember one time I was there hosting, and that big A table up front, I had this bit that would kill every place. But as I go for the punchline, the waitress comes up and starts taking orders. Now they're all distracted. So I'm like, all right, I remember that. So now the next time I'm there hosting, same thing happens. But what did I do that time? I took the microphone and I cupped it like, how can I take your order? And I came down off the stage and I took all their orders for the waitress. They go up to the bar. Now I'm still up. When they come back with the drinks, I said, oh, hold on. They've had some problems here in the past. Just want to make sure. So I came down off the stage again and I took a sip of everybody's drink. Whole place is erupting in hilarity. Dana says to me after, Cronin, stop drinking my customers' drinks.
You're out of your mind.
Yeah. I I mean, again, I have so many stories about Dana, but I think it might have been Debbie, but I'm pretty sure it was Dana. But so I had been hosting him. And then one night, it's my first chance at the middle spot, right? She books me for the middle spot. And right before I'm going to go on, she comes up, she goes, hey, we got a special guest. He's going to do a spot. And it was Craig Gass, right? Gass, this is right when he was on Howard Stern. Remember, he was trying for the seat, right? For the Jackie seat. You guys know Gass, right?
I don't
met
know
him. Yeah.
Yeah, well, he comes out here every year. We just did shows a couple of weeks ago when he was out here. But I remember I like just waited for this chance. It was my first middle spot. And Gas goes on before me and just destroys the place, man. Packed, just destroys the place. And I go up and just eat it. I mean, eat it, man. I was supposed to do 15. I did like 7. And I walked off. And Dana's standing there going like this. I'm like, what the fuck, man? So I didn't like Gas for a long time, man. I wasn't a big fan of Gas, but we became friends later. You know, in fact, I was, if you ask him, when I had the Comedy Connection, I was the first guy that ever booked Craig Gass for a whole weekend on his own somewhere.
Really? Wow.
Yep. He comes out here every year. Every year he comes, every Valentine's Day. Yep.
One of these times we'll come out there. I got to come out there, Eric.
Now, if you ran into, say, Seth MacFarlane and Kevin Hart today, do they know you, Eric? Do they?
Kevin would know me. Seth would not know me. Again,
Kevin
I mean,
would
Seth
know you.
I haven't seen him since, again, the open mics. You know, he went on to do a little better than us, a little bit better than us. But
what's Kevin Hart like as a person? He seems like a really nice guy.
Yeah, he's funny. You know, I mean, again, I haven't seen him in years now, but I mean, back then I knew him. He always had his entourage. They always had to have Grey Goose, and no, he's a nice guy, man.
I'll tell you, man, I've told many people, you want to learn how to run a company, grab him on The Breakfast Club and with Patrick Bet-David on YouTube. Kevin Hart is a brilliant businessman. He is absolutely brilliant.
Yeah,
there's something we got to get into here, Mike, because a dream of ours, as comedians, would all be to own our own comedy club. And Eric Hofer's dream came true when he became the owner of the Comedy Connection.
That's right.
And we have to talk about that because that's part of the Rhode Island comedy history. And Eric took over the Comedy Connection. How long did you have it, Eric?
Not long, John. Maybe 2 years.
A year and a half, 2 years.
2 years, maybe.
And but it was fun. It was a fun ride there for a while.
I got to tell you, that's it was a dream. I was married at the time to the best girl in the world, man. That cost me a lot, but it was like rock star, man. I was like a fucking rock star. That's what happened with that. All of a sudden they're gonna shut this club down. I get it. Now I'm the guy, right? I'm the fucking guy now. Suddenly everyone's my friend, man. Right? Everybody's my buddy. Agents are calling me to book fucking guys, and these people are calling me, and I mean, again, I was like a fucking rock star. I mean, the club we closed at 1 a.m, but that's when the real club started at 1 o'clock in the morning, man. You know what I mean? There was no shortage of drugs and women and booze and parties. And
I managed to slip out of all that. I was chilling out at that time period. So I used to do my set. At the end of the night, I'd run the open mic for you and I would leave. And I heard stories about what you guys did, but
there's stories, man.
I never was a part of it. I never was a part
well,
of it.
Again, we would close the club, last call, let's go, gotta go. And then people would leave out the side door and go around to the back door, and that would lead downstairs to the party room, right? And again, I won't mention names, but there were some big names in the basement of the Comedy Connection having a good time. I mean, just strippers and lesbians, and again, it was fucking insanity, man. Galvin today will still tell you, I can't believe we lived through that. But yeah, it just, it cost me a lot, man. It cost me a lot of money.
Would you do it again if you had to do it again?
Well, we got a new place opening here in May 1st. Yeah. Yep. Up at the golf course up here. But yeah, but it's different now, I mean, I don't, again, back then, guys, just to throw everything out there, it was, oh, hey, Eric. You get a lot of friends when you own a nightclub, man.
Well,
You
the
know?
thing was, you and I and Mike, we were friends way before.
Yeah.
So when you
Well, the
took it
same
over,
friends.
like you had me
Yeah.
run the open mic, and me and Eddie, and we were already friendly. So for me, when you took it over, that was like one of my friends took over the comedy club as a comedian. That was great for me. You know what I mean?
The old saying is true, guys. The friends you have on the way up are the same ones you have on the way down, man. It's the same. It's a true story.
I've pointed this out, and I'm not going to mention any names because it would cause an absolute volcanic uproar. When you took it over, I went back into car sales full time. So I stopped doing comedy. I did a bit here, a bit here. That was it. The Bad Boy of Comedy days were done. I cut my hair short. Now I'm in suits selling cars. And Eric, from being in the car business, you can't get that flexibility. At Bally's, I had a lot of flexibility. I could do what I wanted. So the point that I'm making, I was happy for you when you got it and whatnot. And I told one of my friends, and I'm not even going to mention his name, but I told one of my friends, I said, you want to see what Eric's life is like? Go to his Facebook page and look at all these people that are all over him. I mean, they are all over him. He's the best thing since peanut butter and jelly. And then when you left the connection and then the new owners come in, I said to him, I said, go to their pages and you're going to see the same people all over them. Like they're the best friends ever. It's like, Eric, who? Oh, there's a new person in town or a new
Sure.
and they're like all over him. So I get that. What I want to talk about, Eric, is how did that hurt? I mean, because you're a good guy. You really are a good guy. How did that hurt your feelings as a person of like, wow, you only like me because I have this club? I remember one time at one of the dealerships that I ran, and the grandfather was like a big time billionaire. And the grandson said to me one time, I got to be really careful who wants to be my friend, because do they want to be my friend because of me or because my grandfather's a billionaire and my dad's a multimillionaire and I got a trust fund that'll choke a horse? So how did that make you feel when all of a sudden you own this comedy club and you've got all these people coming out of the woodwork? Hey, remember me?
Yeah. No, you know what? It was, again, it cost me a lot, man. I mean, it cost me a marriage to, literally what I still define as the greatest woman that ever lived. I mean, but it hurt me. Yeah. And again, there were guys, I stayed in touch with Eddie. I stayed in touch with John. I remember Bowden called me, Bowden was there. And again, my same friends I had since childhood, my friends on the way down. Yeah, it hurt a fucking lot, man. And I didn't do any stand-up I didn't do stand-up for 4 or 5 years. I didn't do anything. Huh? Yeah. You know what's funny? I remember when that happened, this was all in the same, I went back to the car business, right? And I remember I split up this is all in one day. I split up with my wife. I was a mess, man. I was just a fucking mess at the time. I didn't have a car because I worked for the dealership, so I had a car with them, but I split up with my wife. I got fired from my job for not focusing, right? Because my head was so fucked up. So I was homeless, jobless, and carless all in the same day. That was my rock bottom, like the same fucking day, man. It all happened the same day, bro. Wow. And I met a really special woman that helped me out. But, and I got my shit back together. I mean, money, whatever. I've always in my life found a way to make it back. But I didn't do anything for 4 or 5 years. Literally nothing.
I remember buying a car off you. I bought at least one, maybe 2 cars off you.
Yeah.
Working for Al, absolutely.
Al Andrew. Yeah. But I went back to the car business, and then I forget when it was, but 4 or 5 years later, I said, I saw that Stephanie Peters was playing at Dick's place, Dick Doherty, right? I don't know if you guys know Dick Doherty, right?
Dick Doherty, yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I love Dick, man. Not Dick. I like Dick. I love Dick Doherty is what I mean. I don't get what I'm saying, but I'm keeping it clean, Mike, keeping it clean. But I remember I saw Stephanie was going to play at Dick Doherty's Comedy Stop. So I was like, yeah, I'll go see Stephanie. So I went to see Stephanie, and she was like, holy shit. I stayed in touch with Stephanie, but not as much as, we used to, but she was still my friend. But she's the one who got me back into stand-up comedy, Stephanie Peters. she got me a spot on that show, and I didn't know Dick Doherty because I wasn't really around the Boston scene, but she got me a spot on that show. And then literally the next day she said, oh, I'm playing down at next weekend at Twin River Casino. Right. She was headlining at Twin River. And she's like, I'll get you a spot. Come on down. And that's when I went back. And that was the first time I went back on stage. And, it was 250 people packed. And it was like, oh, fuck, I missed this, man. Right. Man, I missed doing this. And that's how I got back into stand-up. And then she said, well, hey, 2 weeks from now, I'm going out to Bananas, Bananas Comedy Club in New Jersey. Right. You know that club, right?
Yep.
And she invited me out for the weekend with her to Bananas. So it was really Stephanie that got me back into doing stand-up again.
I can remember, Eric, you rolled into the Carousel Grill one night during one of my shows when I had Meatball Comedy Stop out of nowhere. I didn't know you were coming. I know you're showing up. Johnny, Eric comes rolling into the Carousel Grill in like a $3,000 suit with this supermodel on his arm from like Deal or No Deal, 10 times 10. I was like, whoa, Eric, what is going on? Do you remember that, Eric? You came in that night?
When was that?
Back at the Carousel Grills in Oakland Beach. I had
Yeah.
At that time, I had left comedy for a while. Then I came back, opened up my own production company. I called it Meatball Comedy Stop. And out of the blue, you come. Like, you didn't call me. You didn't tell me you were coming or anything like that. You just come right through the door. Man, it was like, wow, looking like $1 million. I mean, you were like, I never saw anybody. So you look like you just flew in from like Paramount Studios with one of the supermodels from Deal or No Deal.
Eric has made a lot of comebacks. Like me, I made a few comebacks. Eric's made a lot of comebacks.
Johnny, he could have.
He's been down, but you can never count him out.
He could have paid the mortgage that month in the Carousel Grill and the bar tab with just the suit that he had on.
Well, yeah, no more suits, man. But I've had divorces and marriages, and I've been really super well off and really down in the dumps. And my soft spot's always been beautiful women. It used to be cocaine, beautiful women, and booze, but it's still just beautiful women. But I've been up and down, man, and I just always rode the wave of life. I always call it. I just go where the wave takes me, man. And I've always found a way. I never wallowed. I've always been able to recover and bounce back and make money. And, and that's, again, no more suits out here, man. This is as dressy as I can get right now, man.
So let me ask you this, the Comedy Connection alone, when you had it, that could make for a riveting documentary. What did you learn from that? What did you take away from that? The life lessons that you said, you know what, man, never again. What did you learn from all that?
Listen to your friends. They know if there's something wrong and you're doing something that's not going to work out good, and be honest to people that care about you. That's what I learned from that. That's the biggest lesson I learned. I hurt people, but again, and you were talking earlier about, the people, when I took that over, there were people that, of course, the haters were out there, man. The haters were out there. They were trying from the beginning. But again, I let it get the best of me, man. I let it get the best of me. Again, we'd close at 1. I'd bang lines and drink and hook up with chicks until 6, 7, 8 in the morning, man. And then I'd sleep all day and I'd go in at 6 at night. My sister did the day-to-day bullshit, and it'd just be all over. And it was 6, 7 days a week, man.
If you had to do it, if you had to go a chance to have a comedy club like that again, would you do things? I'm sure you do much differently than you did back then, right?
Oh, of course, man. Of course.
I mean, you had a ball. You had a great time, but you definitely would do it. Yeah, you definitely would do it different. I'm lucky I didn't get mixed up in all that, because I was off the booze and all that, so I wasn't partying. So I would leave you and Eddie. Have a good night, guys. And I didn't even know the half of what you guys did,
Well, you got to remember, too, that was my hometown. I grew up in that town. I grew up 2 miles from the building. You know what I mean? So I had, I had lived in Boston for a long time, and I would just go back to do shows. But, all of a sudden I'm seeing people I haven't seen, in 20 years, 30 years since I was a kid, man. I'm seeing these people and they're coming in and, hey, I got a little something. I mean, I hadn't done that shit in years, man. You know, all of a sudden I'm doing a line. It's like, whoa, I hadn't done that in forever, man.
You got tangled up.
What
I
I
just
want to
got
know
caught.
is this: through that stratospheric rocket to stardom, did it make you today? Is it hard for you to let people in, to trust people, or are you apprehensive? You know, like what did that do to you? I know me, I'm a sensitive person. I want people to like me for who I am. And I never had the success that you had, Eric. So what I want to know is you get this club, and like you said earlier, and I referenced it, with people are coming out of the woodwork. Hey, Eric. So through all of that, did it make it hard for you to trust people, to let people in, to develop relationships with people? And I'm talking about just on a friendship level. Talk about that.
I mean, again, you know, there's probably 4 people. I can think of 4 people that if I needed $10,000 bail right now, that I could call. They're the same 4 people that I probably could have called 35 years ago. You know, I have the same friends, you know, the same acquaintances. And is it hard to let people in? The one thing is, you know, the biggest thing I learned, Mike John, is you gotta, when people genuinely care about you, you know, that's a thing that I really lost, is I didn't give a fuck about anybody, man. You know, and that's one thing I realized later in life, that I probably spent my whole life doing that. I never cared about other people's feelings. I mean, I went through three wives, and I look back now and think about it. It's like, I never really gave a shit about their feelings, you know? And even friends, like I remember people, you know, friends and my sister and, you know, my best friend telling me, hey man, you should, you know, slow down, you know, look what's going on, you know, and not listening to them, man, you know, not listening to them. And they didn't give a shit. They weren't there for the free drinks, or, you know, the free food, or the stage time, or, you know, the free cocaine, you know? So the biggest thing I learned through all that was, when someone genuinely cares about me, I take special, I pay attention to that more now. And, you know, that when someone really cares, I can tell if someone really cares about me, and I try to do whatever I can to not fuck that up, you know?
The crazy part was, I was there running the open mic for you. You had me headlining sometime on the weekends or different things. And I didn't really know the half of what was going on until after.
So we were just
I knew
partying
you
our
guys,
asses off.
I knew you guys were partying, but I didn't know to the extent, like you're saying now. I didn't realize it until you lost the club. I didn't realize how intense it was. You know what I mean? I left after the show. I wasn't doing that, you know?
I was basically living at the Westin Hotel, you know, so picture me and Eddie and 5 strippers and an 8-ball of Coke, or 2 8-balls of Coke, you know, in a fucking suite at the Westin, in our bathrobes with chicks all around us. And, you know, I mean, that was the life, man. And no bullshit. It was literally like that. Or, you know, having lesbian night at the club. Remember, I used to have the girls would rent the club every month. And again, you know, just hanging out with lesbians, and, you know, I used to call myself the converter. You know what I mean? The converter. And there was one girl, and I can't remember her name, but she was awesome. But I remember trying to like hook up with her so bad, and I'm like, come on, they call me the converter. And she's like, yeah, me too. But yeah,
I can remember, as I said, you know, I had basically stopped doing stand-up for 13 years. But when you were as deeply plugged in as I was, I would hear all those stories coming out of Connection. I was like, man, this is like being on tour with Van Halen.
Yeah, and I had a friend that a girl that was my friend since junior high, and her brother-in-law was a cop. And I remember one day her telling me, she goes, hey, I heard a rumor that, you know, they know that you're having big parties down in the basement over there with illegal substances. So I stopped for a few weeks and nothing ever happened. And then bam, we went fucking right back to it. You know, and again, it was excess, you know. I mean, I'm no David Lee Roth, but it was just all there. It's like, here's some drugs, here's some booze, here's some chicks, you know? So yeah.
I think if I had gotten involved with you then in the basement, I wouldn't be here now, Eric. I've had my own demons through the years I've had to overcome. If I was there and went down in that basement when you were in Eddie, I don't think I'd be here now.
Well, again, like I said, I won't say any names, but there was a lot of people partaking in the basement activities that, that we all know and that are pretty well-known people. But, again, that's just, it was what it was, and I don't have any regrets over it. I have a few regrets on a personal level with it, but, it is what it is, man. That's life, right? That's what they say. That's life, man.
Well, you had the thrill owner. I mean, you had the thrill owner a comedy club and booking guys like Bill Burr and Kevin Hart and all those.
Damon Wayans. I mean, we had everybody, man.
Yeah, I mean, so you had the thrill of that. I mean, that had to be a thrill to be involved in that for the time you had it, It
was great. And again, you know what? I was getting the best spots too, right? I could put myself on stage anytime I wanted, man. Right? Yeah. Anytime I wanted.
But I always appreciated that you never forgot our friendship, and I didn't haunt you. I think the only thing I ever asked you, can I open for Bill Burr when he was there? And you let me open a show for Bill Burr, which I still appreciate that, And but I never hounded you or anything like that. We just said, hey, can you run the open mic with Eddie? And we ran the open mic, and you were good to us,
Well, again, there's guys that I helped along, like I made Bowden. I think I headlined Bowden before anybody ever headlined Bowden. But Brian's still my friend, man. You know what I mean? He still talks to me, keeps in touch with me, and he cared after that. You know what I mean? He actually reached out and was like, is there anything I can do? And he stayed my friend. But there's a lot of guys that I helped, that I haven't heard from since that fucking day. A lot of guys, man, which is fine. Again, life is life, man. It is what it is, But yeah, no, it's all good. It all worked out good, man.
You could literally make a documentary.
Yeah.
Of that 2-year period. If you wanted to tell me to make a documentary, probably be a hit. It'd probably be a hit.
It would be. I'd watch it. I'd watch it in a second. That's what I said. I mean, that's why I wanted to know, what did that feel like? Because, we all know Eric from like 91, 92, great guy. Hey, it's Eric. And then, it's just not nice to hurt people's feelings like that. That's why I asked you, Eric, is it hard for you to trust people, even just on a friendship level? I mean, because that's some serious stuff that you went through. I mean, I would imagine that could leave scars for life.
Well, again, it's, you gotta, I was like, I just thought of this just now, and I haven't thought of this girl forever, but one of my really good friends back then, who had become my friend after I never knew her before the club, she was a woman, and she was a pimp. So she would come in all the time with all these hot chicks. Like she decided that that was the spot they were going to hang out. And she was literally a pimp. She pimped prostitutes, and good looking prostitutes. And she would come around all the time, and she liked to party, and the girls liked to party. So it's like, so what are you going to do? It's like, I got this girl that's my friend, so, well, I thought she was my friend. I had never heard from her since then, but, and she's got 5 hot chicks with her, and they all want to party after the club closes, and it's like, yeah, come on down. Yeah, I got your tab. Hey, Rebecca, Rakili, whatever they want, I got their tab, and 400 or 500 later at the end of the night, it's time to, pay Eric back for hooking him up all night, and we would go downstairs or we'd go to the Westin and, so.
I'm just glad I didn't get in the middle of all that. Eric.
Yeah, you would have been right there, Johnny.
I don't think I would be here now. I don't think I'd be here now, because I went to rehab in 2005 for some different issues, and I straightened out. If I hadn't gone to that rehab and I was in the middle of all this, holy cow, my life, I can't even imagine.
Based, Johnny, on what you told me yesterday in our conversation about your time serving our country, thank you very much, on the USS Arthur W. Radigan. Thank God you didn't go down to the basement with Eric and the others.
God I didn't make it to the basement, but I heard a little bit of it. I didn't know it was this extensive, though. I found out more than
I can't believe you didn't. I did. I would hear all those stories. I'd be like, whoa.
I just didn't really pay attention because I wasn't in, like I said, I had gone to rehab. I straightened myself out. So I was avoiding drinking and all that kind of stuff. So I just wasn't doing it. You know what I mean? If I had been doing it, I would have probably wound up in the middle of that.
Those stories were so legendary. I was waiting to see Eric pop up on TMZ. That's how big those stories were. Am I right, Eric? That's how big those stories were. I was like, any day he's going to be on TMZ.
Yeah, I think the best way to describe that whole thing was fucking debauchery, man. Just debauchery. Like shit, I won't even say shit, you know. And Eddie was there through the whole thing. So again, one of my best memories is me and Eddie in a suite at the Westin in our terry cloth robes that they provide at the Westin with chicks around us, right? Me and Eddie are just sitting there. Again, we're like fucking Van Halen. We got our robes, we got chicks in a suite, you know, 5 chicks, and we're just, you know, again, it was what it was, man. You
That's
know?
crazy, boy. What do you
Yeah.
make of all? What do you make of this episode, Mike?
I'm telling you, man, when you booked Eric, I told you this is going to be an epic, epic, epic episode. And it has been all that. I mean, we got to have Eric back. We got to have Eric back.
Anytime, man. Again, we're 6 hours ahead here right now, but whatever, anytime, man. But we got, you know, again, you guys, anybody that you want to come out, come out. I got plenty of room here. We got a new place we're opening up May 1st up at the golf course. We're going to be doing shows and bands and weddings and, you know.
Wow. Is that going to be, how often are the comedy shows going to be, Eric?
We'll book shows, you know. I mean, we'll do regular shows, you know. We're not just going to do shows, but, you know, we're going to do bands and dance nights and weddings, and it's going to be it's a great place. It's a beautiful place, right? It overlooks all of Maui up at the golf course. You can see the ocean from it.
Nice.
And it's a great spot. And again, you know, it's weird here. Like guys come and, you know, big names come and they always want to, you know, the night before, like we have the MAC, which is the Maui Arts Center, you know, which is a big venue for stand-ups. There's, you know, 5, 6, 8,000 people outside on the, you know, that you can do shows outside. And then there's a 1,000-seat theater. But, you know, we've had guys come out here like that just, you know, Hannibal Buress, you know, guys that are just out here on vacation that find that we do shows and they call up and, hey, can I get a spot? And they show up and do a spot, you know? So it's a small scene here in the Maui anyways, you know, it's a small scene.
Wow.
It's a really small scene, but it's fun, man. And then again, it's all tourists. So the crowds are always different. So that Goldschlager bit I opened with my whole life still crushes, man. Still crushes with that bit.
Eric,
right?
You've landed on your feet after all you've been through, the ups, the downs, the divorces, the whole 9 yards. You landed on your feet, and you got a house you just bought out there. You're doing fantastic, man. So I'm happy for you. I'm happy for you that you landed on your feet. You know, because somebody else might not have overcame with everything you went through. They might not have landed on their feet as good as you have, you know?
Well, you know what? Like I said, it wasn't the first time in my life I've been down, man, and came back. You know, I've been down many times.
I can relate to that because I've made a lot of comebacks. You know, between the drinking and everything I've been through, I've made a lot of comebacks, so I can relate. I can relate to what you went through there.
Yeah, and you know what the weird thing is, John? It's like, you know, with the coke and all that shit. It's like when that ended at the Comedy Connection, I just never did coke again. I didn't need rehab. I didn't have to go. I didn't drink or do coke for years. I didn't need rehab. I just stopped. Again, it was just the environment I was in. And then, you know, like out here, it's like, it's just beautiful. And you just want to go drive and sit at the beach. And, you know, you don't need, even if I was around it right now, I wouldn't really have any interest in doing it, you know, because again, I mean, I've gone up and down my whole life, man. I always will, you know?
Yeah. Well, you don't want to go down anymore. You came back up. I think you should stay up now.
Too late to go down, man. I'll be 52 in 2 weeks. So
yeah, now you gotta stay. Downs, you gotta stay where you are now. Don't go down again, man. You know, you never know how many comebacks you got left in you. You know what I mean?
My comebacks. This is my last comeback. I'm good, man. Life's fantastic.
That's what I say too. I made my last comeback. I don't know if I got another comeback in me again. If I started drinking and going down that road, I don't know if I got another comeback in me. You know?
Right. Well, yeah, it was awesome doing this, man. It was great talking to you guys.
Yeah, you did. It was awesome having Eric on. Anything else you want to ask Eric, Mike?
I'm telling you, man, this is going down. This is like my favorite. This episode is like my favorite, man. Eric, thanks for coming on. Thank you for being so cracking my chest open and saying, this is me. This is what we did, man. It takes a lot to be that brutally honest. And you just did it. You shared with us and all that are watching. I sincerely appreciate it. Did you ever get to a point where you said, God, I need your help. See me through this. Did that ever happen?
I never did. You know, I've never really been a religious person. Never. I've never been really, I mean, you know, I made my confirmation and went to church when I was a kid, but again, I've always just pulled myself out of shit, man. Again, same thing with the Coke and stuff. It's like, you know, people say, oh, you were hooked on Coke. It's like, I may have been, but you know, on Tuesday I was banging lines, and then Wednesday didn't have the club anymore and just never touched it again. You know,
Yeah.
I was always, oh, I'm drinking too much. All right, I just won't drink. You know,
I want to,
so,
I want to, I'm not going to Bible beat you, but I want to plant this seed in your heart. I believe God has a plan for you, because a lot of people, man, they wouldn't have survived that. They wouldn't have. There would be no Eric Hofer. I believe that God has a plan for you, Eric. I am so happy to see you looking healthy, handsome as you always are. You've landed on your feet. God has placed you in Hawaii, and I pray God's favor over you, Eric. You were a great interview, and you're a good guy. I always enjoyed your company down through the years. Thanks for coming
right.
on, and please join us again.
It was
Yeah,
great to
well,
see you, Mike. Long time, man. Johnny boy.
well,
Thanks,
we'll
brother.
definitely have you back, Eric. It was an
Yeah.
interesting episode. I never ventured down into that basement, but boy, if I did, and me and Mike, if we went down in that basement, we'd probably still be there.
Oh man, are you kidding?
Hey, you know what? I want to tell you too. Hey, say hi to Nick Youssef for me. I always liked Nick. I always liked Nick Youssef.
Yeah, we have him on. We have him on.
I saw
Yeah,
that.
Nick's on quite a bit.
You know, and again, I've been talking to him a few years now, but Nick's another guy that reached out to me afterwards.
Yeah.
You know, after that all happened, Nick Youssef. And I always liked Nick. I always thought he was really, really, really funny, man.
Yeah,
And,
he's a good guy.
Yeah, tell him I said hi for sure.
Definitely. Eric, thanks for coming on, man. I wish you the best out in Hawaii. And maybe one of these days I'll feel like flying 15, 20 hours and I'll come out there.
I'm here, John. All you need is a ticket, buddy. I got plenty of spare rooms for you, pal.
Yeah, there's no basement over there, is there?
No, we don't have basements in Hawaii, man. No, we don't
All
even
right,
have heat.
as long as there's not a basement there, you're gonna
No
bring me
basement.
down. I
We
don't want to
don't
go
have
down.
basements.
I don't want to go down the
Man.
basement. I might not come out.
You know, it's funny that you say that, because I'm trying to put in another bathroom I have a fourth bedroom with a third bath, and I got to hook the pipe up. And I remember looking at it going, the guy's like, well, we got to dig your whole yard up and saw through your driveway. I'm like, oh, fuck, we don't have a basement. I can't just hook up to the pipe in the basement, man. So no, good thing we don't have a basement here, man.
Yes.
I
For
get it.
many good thing for many on many different levels. Mike, thanks for co-hosting with me, Eric.
Mike Cronin, good to see you, buddy.
Been
Thanks,
awesome to
Johnny
have
boy.
you on,
Same
brother.
here, man.
Now
God
we'll
bless.
see you.
Eric.
We'll see you soon, brother.
Awesome, man. Thanks, guys.
Love you.